the William Saliba injury. So there's been reports that he is now facing between, I think, 3 to 4 weeks out with that ankle issue he sustained at Anfield. So he could miss maybe between 6 and 7 matches. Of course, Man City, Newcastle, both of Arsenal's Champions League games he'll be out for. And we were speaking last week that, the one area that Arsenal have real strength in depth is defence. But William Saliba is still William Saliba. So regardless of the options that Arsenal do have, how big a blow is it for him to be missing for any length of time?
Well, it's a big blow, obviously. Obviously, it is. You want William Saliba fit. He's one of the best centre backs in the world. Just on those reports from France, and I haven't had anything confirmed yet, but from sort of conversations I've had about those reports, it was just like I've kind of been. I'm not absolutely confident that that time frame is correct. It might be, but certainly from sort of conversations I've had, I've kind of been steered away from following that time frame. Who knows? That might be worse news. It might be longer. It might be shorter. I don't know, but I've just yeah. So well, let's wait and see what Mikel says. I think at his press conference this week, we might get a bit of a clearer view on it. But I'm not absolutely convinced that that timescale will prove to be correct. So we'll see what happens on that. But if he's out for any period of time, you want him fit. Manchester City is looming large, and for that game, we know how much Saliba and Gabriel love playing against Erling Haaland, and we know how much Erling Haaland doesn't really like playing against those two. So for him to not be around for a game of that magnitude would be a huge blow. So you want him fit, but Arsenal have built a squad, built a defensive strength in depth that allows them to be able to cope and to deal with these sort of situations. Players are going to get injured, so it's all about what you've got in reserve to be able to come in and continue on from what you're trying to do. And Arsenal have done that. Mascara came in against Liverpool Anfield and was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure there'll be difficult times for Mascara. He'll come into some games and he might struggle. He won't always be able to produce the type of performance he did at Anfield. But he's clearly a really talented player. And Arsenal do have, if Ben White comes back fit, which there is a hope he will be fit after the international break for the game this weekend, then that does allow you the potential of having Ben White as a centre-back or even Jurien Timber as a centre-back and playing Ben White at right-back. So there are a load of really top options there for Arsenal to cover for Saliba if he is out for any sort of significant period of time. But let's hope that's not the case. Maybe he misses Nottingham Forest, but let's see if he can get himself back from Manchester City. I'm sure he's going to be absolutely focused on doing that.
Fingers crossed for that. But of course, this is Arsenal, so we always have to prepare for the worst case scenario to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, like you were saying, we spoke about Mosquera last week, how he just seamlessly slotted into that defence against Liverpool, and his fitness record is also quite impeccable. But as I was just saying, this is Arsenal. Players can come here with a perfect fitness record. Boom, they're injured within a few weeks. So it might be a bit of a risk to start him. Yeah, I think I know your answer to this question. You were talking about the alternatives there with Ben White and Jurien Timber. I think, if those reports are to be believed and Saliba does miss, say, a month of action, Mosquera, can he start all of those Premier League and Champions League games, or do we have to see Ben White at centre back, Jurien Timber centre back, maybe even a Hincapié or a Calafiori in that right centre back role? What do you think Arteta will do there?
I genuinely don't know, Ben. I don't, but that's a good thing. There's so many options for Arteta that I find it really difficult to be able to predict what he's going to do defensively. I mean, Mascara has come in to be Saliba's cover. So you would think from that he would probably be in the driving seat to start those games. And what we saw at Anfield, there's nothing to suggest he won't be able to come in and deal with it. But they do have other options, really, really strong options. Like I said, I didn't even mention Hincapié there, and I know he is a left-sided option, but who knows? Maybe he's seen as a player who can play there, Calafiori as well. So there are options all over the defence for Arsenal. But I would say Mascara is probably the guy in the driving seat for that role, just because he played so well against Liverpool, and not just against Liverpool. Pretty much every time we've seen him on the pitch in an Arsenal shirt, he's been flawless. Really, he's been really, really good. So I would say he's a guy who's in a pole position if Saliba is out for any major period of time. I think he'll get the nod.
Interesting stuff, yeah. And Arsenal do have the EFL Cup starting soon. I think it's Port Vale away from home in the third round. You would expect that Saliba, injured or not, would have been rested for that game. And this maybe could be an opportunity you'd expect for some of the younger academy kids to make an impression. One of those is Marley Salmon. I think, 16 years old now, I think he is. We saw a bit of him in pre-season on that Asia tour. Could that Port Vale game be a chance for him? Do you think he might get an opportunity in the Saliba role in that one?
I doubt it. I think he might be involved. I think he might they might take him along for the journey for the ride. But I would still say, given the amount of players that Arsenal have and the squad depth that they've got now, that everyone needs to get minutes. I think it'll be a very strong team against Port Vale. There'll be a lot of changes, but I still think there'll be a lot of strength and experience in there. You know, Hincapie's got to be brought into the team. Mars Lewis Skelly's going to have to play. You know, we'll wait and see if Mosquera needs to play in the league before that. Maybe he will get a rest. But I'd be surprised if you throw a 16-year-old. I know he's throwing a 15-year-old in just ahead of him at the moment, but I'd be surprised if Salmon starts that game. But I think he might start. You know, he's very highly rated. Arsenal really do rate Salmon. They think they've got another potential star on their hands there. But I think that might come a little bit too early for him this season.